Thank you, Dr. Celia, for that kind introduction. On the 7th anniversary of the landmark July 12, 2016 Arbitral Award on the South China Sea arbitration, we see more countries supporting the award and demanding that China, as a member of the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, must abide with the award. There is an obvious reason why the Arbitral Award can only gather more support in the future among member states of UNCLOS. If China, under its 9, now 10-dash line, can claim almost the entire South China Sea, then UNCLOS cannot apply in the South China Sea and also in all the other seas of the world. Nuclear-armed or militarily powerful states will emulate China and just seize the maritime zones of their weaker or smaller neighboring states. That would mean the end of UNCLOS, the convention that guarantees and protects the exclusive economic zone and extended continental shelves of all coastal states in the world, the vast majority of whom are small and medium-sized states. It is a matter of self-preservation and self-interest for this vast majority of small and medium-sized states who support the Arbitral Award to prevent the collapse of UNCLOS. More and more citizens of small and medium-sized states will realize this over time. Let me restate the Arbitral Award's core rulings. First, of course, is the ruling that China's 9-dash line, which China's expanded to 10-dash line now, has no legal effect in determining maritime zones under UNCLOS. To do justice to the enormity of this ruling, let me quote the precise words of the Arbitral Tribunal in striking down China's 9-dash line. I'm quoting the tribunal now. The tribunal declares that as between the Philippines and China, China's claims to historic rights or other sovereign rights or jurisdiction with respect to maritime areas of the South China Sea encompassed by the relevant part of the 9-dash line are contrary to the convention and without lawful effect to the extent that they exceed the geographic and substantive limits of China's maritime entitlements under the convention. It further declares that the convention superseded any historic rights or other sovereign rights or jurisdiction in excess of the limits imposed therein. End of quote. Second, the Arbitral Award ruled, the Arbitral Tribunal ruled that the 46-hectare Ituaba, the largest island in the Spratlys, is not capable of human habitation. Under UNCLOS, an island must be capable of human habitation based on its own natural resources to generate a 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone. Thus, the rest of the high tide features in the Spratlys, which are all much smaller than Ituaba, do not also generate exclusive economic zones, but only 12 nautical mile territorial seas, just like Ituaba. This is the first case where an international tribunal explained what constitutes a habitable island that can generate a 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone. Because of this ruling, many coastal states can no longer claim 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zones for their tiny islands that do not meet the criteria of a habitable island. All these tiny or uninhabitable islands are entitled only to 12 nautical mile territorial seas. In effect, this ruling has expanded considerably the high seas in our planet. In the high seas, of course, there is freedom of fishing for all states of the world. Putting together the ruling that China's 9-dash line cannot serve as legal basis to claim any of the waters or resources of the South China Sea, as well as the ruling that none of the high tide features in the Spratlys generate an exclusive economic zone, we come to the inescapable conclusion that the Philippines has a 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone in the West Philippine Sea, unimpaired by China's 9-dash line, which China calls now 10-dash line. Third, the Arbitral Award made specific rulings on the status of geologic features in the Spratlys and Scarborough Shoal. For example, the Arbitral Tribunal ruled that Reed Bank is fully submerged and situated within the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines. Consequently, the Philippines has exclusive right to exploit the natural resources like oil and gas in Reed Bank. This ruling is important for it assures service contractors who extract the gas in Reed Bank that the Philippines, under international law, owns the gas in Reed Bank. The Arbitral Tribunal also ruled that Mischief Reef is a low-tide feature which generates no maritime zones of its own. Mischief Reef is part of the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines, and only the Philippines can erect a structure or artificial island on Mischief Reef. Consequently, the 560-hectare artificial island that China reclaimed on Mischief Reef to host its huge air and naval base is, under UNCLOS, an illegal construction. The Arbitral Tribunal, moreover, ruled that Ayungin Shoal, also known as Second Thomas Shoal, is a low-tide feature forming part of Philippine Exclusive Economic Zone in the West Philippine Sea. Ayungin Shoal is where the BRP Sierra Madres beach, manned by a dozen Philippine Marines. Only if the Philippines can erect a structure or artificial island on Ayungin Shoal, since under UNCLOS, the coastal state has the exclusive right to erect structures or artificial islands within its exclusive economic zone. On the northern side of the West Philippine Sea, the Arbitral Tribunal ruled that Scarborough Shoal is a high-tide feature incapable of human habitation and thus entitled to only a 12 nautical mile territorial sea. China has been claiming that Scarborough Shoal, which is the only high-tide feature in its so-called Zhongsha Islands, is entitled to a 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone. This claim is, of course, without basis, and the tribunal so ruled. The Arbitral Tribunal ruled further that the territorial sea of Scarborough Shoal is a traditional fishing ground common to Filipino, Chinese, and Vietnamese fishermen who have all equal fishing rights in the territorial sea of Scarborough Shoal. Fourthly and lastly, the Arbitral Tribunal ruled that China's, and I quote, land reclamation and construction of artificial islands, installations, and structures has caused severe, irreparable harm to the coral reef ecosystems in the Spratlys, end of quote. This is a searing indictment of China's destructive reclamation activities in the Spratlys. This is also the first time under UNCLOS that an international tribunal ruled on the obligation of coastal states to preserve and protect the marine environment. China's destruction of the marine environment in the Spratlys is ironic because it is the largest fishing fleet in the world. China has been taking more than 50% of the annual fish catch in the South China Sea. The South China Sea accounts for 12% of the world's total fish catch, while occupying only 2.5% of the ocean surface of the world. The South China Sea is very productive in fishery because of the Spratlys, a vast collection of atolls that serve as the breeding ground of fish. The fish that breed in the Spratlys form part of the vital food chain of the fish in the South China Sea. Without the fish that breed in the Spratlys, this food chain will break, and the fish stock in the entire South China Sea will collapse. Thus, China, with its destructive reclamation of Spratlys, has actually depleted severely the fish supply available to its own people, as well as the peoples of other coastal states in the South China Sea. Recently, Chinese fishing vessels also wantonly destroyed the coral reefs in the fully submerged Iroquois Reef and Sabina Shoal, which are both within Philippine Exclusive Economic Zone in the West Philippine Sea. The Philippine government now is thinking of filing another arbitration case against China to recover damages for the destruction of these coral reefs. To end my remarks, I wish to state that as long as China does not respect the exclusive economic zones of the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, and Indonesia in the South China Sea, China will never be a true friend of these countries. These countries are indisputably entitled to their own exclusive economic zones under international law. With the arbitral award, no state can ever legitimately deny the inherent rights of these states to their own exclusive economic zones. As long as China claims the exclusive economic zones of these countries, the peoples of these countries will always see China as an unlawful aggressor and interloper. Thank you for your kind attention and a good day to everyone.